Hi, this is Paul Fontanez. We're back, Class 8 for Nursing 433 Essentials of Nursing Leadership. We're going to talk today about time management and setting patient care priorities. Very important topic, something you're going to have to deal with once you graduate. And you're probably seeing it and have to deal with it now as you're working in your clinicals. So we're going to get into it and see how do we learn how to prioritize and manage our time. Some of the objectives for today are how to apply the principles of priority setting, some strategies that will help you deliver on effective nursing care, and relating time management strategies to enhance even your own personal productivity. So, definition of time management is sort of like a set of related common sense skills that help people use time more effectively or more productively. The whole saying goes, we only have 24 hours in a day. That saying is so true. And how does it seem that some people can get more done than others? Or you'll notice when you work on a nursing floor that certain nurses can get more done or seem like they're more organized with their time, where other nurses always seem like they're running around and never have time. So that's what we're going to kind of get into today. Some of the things we're going to talk about are the Pareto principle, outcome versus process orientation, and then the value of analyzing how your time is currently being used. This was a study by Annelie Meiring who talked about time management and how to improve outcomes through management inputs. And she talked about the Pareto principle, which is an economic principle that they brought into nursing. They may refer to it also as the 80-20 rule. And what she says is that when you focus on 20%, that makes a great difference rather than focusing on 80% that has little or no impact. And what she recommends is prioritizing by groups into 3 groups. Tasks that are urgent, need immediate action, tasks that are important but not urgent, and then tasks that are not urgent and might be a waste of time. So her recommendation is just focus, again, based on the Pareto principle, is focus on the 20% so that you can have a greater impact. The importance of outcome orientation is to set goals and identify goals for the shift. And again, when you're setting goals, you want to make sure that they're broken down into achievable outcomes, something that you can achieve within the amount of time that you're there. You've got to include some flexibility with your goals. And then you got to share the plan. You can't do everything yourself. If you have assisted personnel, assign them to do certain tasks. Again, it may take blood sugar, may take you 15 minutes. You may say, I don't want to ask them to do that. It's in their job description. Ask them to do it. And then make sure that they follow up and close the loop by telling you what those numbers were. So you can't do everything by yourself. And this, in this point is understanding that your time is valuable. You may say, I don't want to burden them with that, but every moment you spend as a nurse is valuable time. So again, make sure you delegate and you take advantage of using your assisted personnel to work with you and work together, not just for you to sit down and not do anything, but effectively using the assisted personnel. Another thing is, use of time. One thing that is not reliable is you reporting, I spent about this amount of time doing this amount of time doing that. Your memory is unreliable. So recommendation is just make an activity log and jot down, I did this, it took me 30 minutes. I did this, it took me 40 minutes. Because what you'll begin to recognize is that you're actually spending more time on certain things that you didn't think you were. And that's where you can make some adjustments. Hey, I spent 40 minutes doing this. Maybe I can get that done in 30. And that's where an activity log will help you where your memory won't. And the question is, what's eating up our time? In our textbook on page 425, of course, nurses, documentation. You spend about 25% of our time doing that. Care coordination and patient care activities, about 14% for each. Assessments, about 5%. Medication administrations, about 12%. Other unit-related activities, non-nursing, about 13%. Non-clinical activities might be about 11%, and then wasted time is 6%. These are estimates. Shalini Nayak, in her research on time management, recognized certain things about our inadequate use of time management, that if we don't focus on managing our time, these are some of the things that happen. There's delays in patient care and safety. The nurses may not be able to think critically. And they struggle with prioritization, and then nurses make more errors. So this is supported time management is very important, that we do these things, because we tend to make more errors when we don't. Some of the ways to learn how to prioritize is doing first things first. And so what that means is, making first priority anything life-threatening or potentially life-threatening. These are your ABCs: your airway, your breathing, your circulation. If there's any patient of yours that those things are being affected, you want to see them first. Then you've got your essential activities, essential to safety. And you want to make sure, that you're protecting your patients from infections, from falls. I used to think it was a silly thing, in nursing school. Why do they always focus on, making sure you put the bed down, the bed down after you transport a patient into a room? Why, what's the big deal about a call bell? But a lot of times, if patients got to go to the bathroom, they might be climbing over the bed rail if it's in a high position, fall, hurt themselves, and you can give them a call bell. So again, prioritization, making sure that that the patient is safe. And then the third would be, essentials to the plan of care, relieving symptoms of pain and nausea. This is when you're taking care of that person who's complaining about pain. That would be your third priority after you dealt with safety and you dealt with life-threatening. Application of time management strategies. You want to estimate the amount of activity time that's consuming your time, so you can plan accordingly. One example I like to use is a dressing change. I remember when I was in CTICU, we had some burn patients, and we weren't used to taking care of burn patients, but we had a couple burn patients that we had to change their dressings. Who knew that it takes 45 minutes to change a dressing for a burn patient? And then at that, you had to plan accordingly. If it wasn't for the off shift telling me, hey, I spent 45 minutes in there changing that dressing, and I needed somebody to help hold the legs up because it was so heavy. So these are things, again, that might take up your time, and you've got to plan accordingly for that. The other thing is supplies. If you know that dressing is going to take you 45 minutes, do you have all the supplies you need? Do you have to dress up to change that dressing? So again, these things you've got to think through. Been there, done that, where I've gone into a room and I forget I'm going back to supply room 3 or 4 times. So again, these are things that you need to develop over time to get better at. Application of time management strategies, again, utilizing that shift handoff report, the end of shift report, to just make sure you know what's going on with your patients, transmitting information, asking questions, and them giving you answers. Nurses, recognizing that nurses cannot achieve these objectives by themselves, you may need some help. And then time action, how long is it going to take me to get that work done? Again, these are things to think about. Then at the end of the shift, you may want to re-examine, did your plan work? Should you have done something differently? And pass that on to the next shift. They may need to shift things or their priorities to help each other out. Or were there any staffing problems that may have related to the changing shift? So something that you want to think about for the future. Let's say you normally have 4 patients. You come on shift and now you have 6 patients. So you've got to adjust your time. You can't just follow your normal routine because you've got more patients to take care of. Then, the importance of identifying some time wasters. Are you procrastinating in delegating, or you don't know how to delegate, or you're working with an assistant personnel who you're afraid to delegate to because they always give you some type of remark. And so you've got to deal with those things and deal with them head on so that you can work out those things so they don't waste your time. And then you may, in your charge report to the charge nurse, reminding them, say, hey, this may not be a heavy assignment during the daytime, but it's a heavy assignment at nighttime because I've got 2 patients that are confused. So the charge nurse may want to change assignments for the next day. One of the other things is you want to avoid priority traps. by doing whatever hits first. You don't want a to-do list and just go down your to-do list. You want a prioritization list. What's first, what's second, what's third. It's different than just a to-do list. Taking the path of least resistance. You're avoiding the patient's room who might be rude, to you, or they're impatient. Again, but that you've got to be in that room for 45 minutes to do that dressing change. You don't want to procrastinate or take the path of least resistance. You want to go just do the task that you need to get done. The other thing is responding to the squeaky wheel. We do this a lot. I remember, doing this as a new nurse, that I was responding to the squeaky wheel a lot. That patient was asking you for pain medicine the moment that you get on work. You figure, well, let me just get her the pain medicine quick and then do everything else. But again, that may not be your priority. They may need to wait. You may need to set boundaries with them and say, hey, I'll see you in 5 minutes. I'll see you in 30 minutes. I'll be there. And completing tasks, again, by default, that's doing your to-do list and not a prioritization list, which is what you want to do. You want to prioritize. Or relying on misguided inspiration. I love being a nurse, and I want to spend an hour talking to each one of my patients. It might not be realistic, so you've got to take those things into account. And here's a little question to kind of just ask you. Miss HM is an 85-year-old patient who was transferred from a nursing home because of dehydration. She's vomiting, has abdominal pain with unknown etiology. IV hydration continues, and a workup is planned. She's alert and oriented. Then you have Mr. AB, who's 72 years old, status post-CVA. He's to be transferred to the rehab. He needs his belongings gathered and a nursing summary written. That's the second, would I choose to prioritize him first? Or Miss VG, who is an 82-year-old post-op day 5, after an open reduction of a femur fracture, history of CHF, hypertension. She takes multiple meds. Her temperature is elevated. She's confused. So which out of these three would I make as my priority to go see? So the reason why it's not A is because the patient's alert and oriented. So everything is okay for the moment. Mr. AB needs a nursing summary written. Yeah, you'll get to that. But the real issue is going to be the safety piece. And that's where you've got Miss C, who's her temperature is elevated, she's confused. So you want to make that as a priority. And then your own personal life and personal productivity. Time management applies to your personal life as well. You may notice that, hey, you don't manage time well at work. You may not manage time well at home either. So, what do? There are certain things you might need to delegate work to others. If you have a family member, a husband you live with, you may say, hey, I need you guys to make sure you do the dishes. I need you guys to make sure you clean up after yourselves. Or you may say, hey, I need to hire a cleaning person to help me because I can't keep up with everything. So these are things even in your personal life that you may need to prioritize. Or I may need to get up earlier. Or I may not need to stay up late on my phone just doing nothing because then I'm tired and exhausted in the morning. So little things even in your personal life to change. You may want to check out your own personal life by creating a schedule, seeing where, again, not relying on memory, but what you're actually spending time doing. And then carving into that time to relax. This is something that we forget about. We forget about taking that time to just vegetate and relax. Control some unwanted distractions, or phones or tablets or different things may distract us. We may need to put it away for a little while and just find that personal time. Or we may want to learn something we always wanted to learn. You may not be able to do that now while you're in school, but in the future you may want to take that time to learn a hobby and have some time for yourself. All right, so the assignments that are due coming up this week, you're going to have a reflection thread. I want you guys to kind of describe ways that you've utilized prioritization and decision making that you've had to do in your clinical when you were in charge. So how did you have to prioritize things when you were in charge? You might have had a nurse who needed more of your time than somebody else. Or the nurse might have been the squeaky wheel. Were they really having urgent needs? Or did another nurse have more urgent needs? So these are things, again, I just want you to describe in your reflection thread. And then for your online discussion, just what you do currently. How do you prioritize your own care? And so I want you to kind of share that in the online discussion so that everyone can kind of hear from each other what they're doing. And references, of course, these are the research articles and your textbook. Any questions?